Hi everyone, welcome back to Aunt Susie's Kitchen. It's an exciting day here today because I am going to share with you my prize-winning banana bread recipe, so stay tuned. Okay, let's get started. We're going to go ahead and mix the wet ingredients first. I have here, first and foremost, 3 cups of slightly mashed ripened bananas, very ripened bananas. You don't want them so overly ripened that they're brown, but you do want them super soft because at that point they really have released most of their sugars and the banana flavor is very intense. That's really what you're looking for. And I'm just going to beat these really quickly and break them down just a little bit more before I start to add the rest of the ingredients. Okay, perfect. So I just beat those for maybe about 30 seconds, okay? And that's what you're looking for. You really want those bananas to kind of break down. You don't want to leave any chunks behind. And they're actually starting to almost get a little bit creamy. That's really what we're going for here, okay? So now the rest of the ingredients are gonna go in really quickly. This comes together super fast. We have here 3 cups of granulated sugar. I have 1.5 cups of melted butter. So this was easy. What I did is I just took 3 sticks of butter. I took them out of their packaging. I stood them up inside this measuring cup and just kind of smashed down on them a little bit so that they didn't come up over the top. And then I covered it with plastic wrap and I put it in the microwave for about 50 seconds. And they melt beautifully like that. Don't put them in for any longer though. I have 4 eggs. And those are large eggs. Whenever you read a recipe for baking and you see eggs, large eggs are always implied unless it says otherwise. And now I'm just going to add 1 full tablespoon of vanilla. And just like that, the wet ingredients are all in and we're just gonna go ahead and give this a quick mix. Start off on low because you don't wanna have batter flipping all over the kitchen. Okay, so I let that beat for about a minute and a half, just until everything incorporated well and the sugar's starting to dissolve. And that's what you're looking for. Got a nice, smooth, shiny mixture. Okay, great. Let's go ahead now and mix the dry ingredients. Whenever I mix recipes that call for flour, I always like to weigh my flour. I find that the weight of flour is always consistent. 1 cup weighs 5 ounces, and I never have to worry if I've poured too much in a measuring cup or not enough. I just simply measure it on my scale, and I always know that I have the right amount of flour. So right here, I have 4.5 cups of flour, and to it, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of salt, 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 2 tablespoons of cinnamon. And I'm gonna put them right on top because what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to sift the flour, and as I sift it, it's gonna incorporate everything that I just put in there so that it mixes evenly. And that's it. This really just takes a minute. I like to use my whisk. You see how quickly that all sifts straight through. It keeps your batter nice and light, but also better than that, can you see in the bottom of there? You see all those granules that have not been dissolved and didn't sift through? I'm not gonna put those in there. This is why we sift. Okay, so now I've got everything all mixed up and I'm going to add this dry ingredients to the wet ingredients, and I'm gonna do it about 1/3 at a time, and I'm gonna mix it in between and scrape down the bowl. One final thing that I want to do now, I want to add some nuts to it. And this is definitely optional, but I like the crunch that walnuts give them. You can use toasted pecans or any other nut that you like. I find that walnuts really give it the best flavor. So I have here about 5.5 ounces, a little bit more than a cup of walnut halves, and I have them in a Ziploc bag. I'm just going to give them a quick crush. I don't want them so super fine. That's why I'm not using my mixer or my mini chopper. I'm just going to, you know, break them up into pieces smaller than the halves that they were. And usually this is a very quick process. And I think that's good. So I'm going to pour these now into the batter. Give it one final mix. And then we're going to go ahead and get some pans ready. I have a couple of foil loaf pans, and I'm going to grease them and line them with a little bit of either parchment or wax paper, whatever you have on hand. We're going to lay that parchment in the bottom, and this way when we're ready to turn them out, they'll come out very, very easily. You certainly can leave them in the pans if you want, but when these are done and they're come out of the oven and they cool, I'm going to show you how I wrap them to keep them nice and moist. And I like to turn them out of the pans. I don't like to leave them in. So let's get these walnuts incorporated, and I'm going to go ahead and get these pans ready. I have a 325-degree oven that is already preheated, and we're going to go ahead and get these in the oven. Okay. So it really just takes a couple seconds for the nuts to incorporate. And now we're going to go ahead and get these pans ready. All right, so I have a couple of pieces of wax paper that I cut to fit the bottom. And I have a little bit of canola oil here and just a simple pastry brush. So I'm putting the oil in the bottom, and just make sure that when you do this, you get the corners really well. Aluminum foil pans, the corners are kind of funny. They're a little ripply, and there's a lot of crevices in there. So you want to make sure that you get all of that area. That's that. And then that's it. Like I said, we're going to put this in a 325-degree oven. And because this is a denser batter, it's going to cook, I'm going to check it at about 40 minutes. Okay, so just this piece of wax paper is going to go down in the bottom, just like that. 3 of them, I think that's going to be good. Now, when you're pouring out your batter, again, I'm going to go back to my kitchen scale because it really is such a useful tool in the kitchen. And I could make sure that all 3 of these containers are filled the same amount. There's no guessing and no measuring, and really I can just do it by weight. So if I bring that scale over here so you guys can see what's happening. Let's see if you can see that. So right now it's at 0, and I'm basically gonna just fill it until I think I have enough, and I'm gonna do probably about 3/4 of a way. Okay, so there we go. We have 3 loaf pans filled with our batter. When we were done, they each wound up weighing about 25 ounces. So that's about 1.5 pounds. So that's a nice hefty size banana loaf there. And like I said, you can definitely make these in smaller pans if you want. So I have 325-degree preheated oven. I'm going to take these over to the oven, and I'm going to put them in separately. I'm going to take them off of this pan, but this is just so I can carry them all at one time. And we'll be back. Okay, these banana breads have been in the oven for about 35 minutes. Let's turn on the oven light and see what's going on inside. I can tell you that the aroma of vanilla and warm cinnamon is starting to waft through the air, and it smells delicious. But I can tell that they're not quite ready yet. They've only been in about 30 minutes. These are pretty deep loaf pans. We're gonna go ahead and reset the timer and give them at least another 25 minutes before we check them again. Okay, Okay, so in total, we are about at an hour now. Let's see what's going on. Oh, these look amazing. They're not quite done yet, and I can tell because as the tops are starting to split a little bit, I can still see that the batter is very wet inside. So I'm going to say at least another 10 minutes. We'll give them a check and see if they can come out then. Okay, so we pulled these out of the oven. They were in for about an hour and 15 minutes, and they are a beautiful golden brown. And I just put an instant read thermometer in here just to make sure that they truly were done, and they are. Cakes are baked at 210 degrees, and these are holding steady at 211. So I am confident that they are thoroughly cooked throughout and that they're not going to be dry. So I'm going to let them sit on this wire rack for about 15 minutes until they're cool enough to handle it. I'm going to show you how I store them. Okay, so we're back. These have cooled enough that they can be handled, and I just want to show you really quickly how I wrap them to keep them nice and moist. I like to wrap them when they're still warm, and remember I said I put that paper on the bottom so that they could release very easily, and you saw how easy they poured out of the pan. Okay, so I'm just going to center this right here. Grab 2 sides of foil, fold it down to make like a little envelope, and then just seal the sides by folding them in. And that's it. And I like to keep them wrapped like this, especially when they're warm, because it keeps all of that moisture in and it prevents them from drying out. Okay, so let's cut into this and see what it's like. So again, very easy release. We can thank the parchment down on the bottom and the fact that we greased it up nicely before we baked it. And let's just cut into it and see what's happening here. It's got a really nice crust on the outside, but look how nice the inside is. Look at that. It's well baked, it's still warm. This is the best time to eat it. Maybe with a little butter, maybe all by itself. Nice cup of coffee. Really is a nice loaf of banana bread. And you can always, of course, if you're gonna have some friends over, you can present it nicely like this. Who wouldn't be impressed with this? Definitely go ahead and get in the kitchen and make this recipe. Your friends and family will thank you. In the meantime, go and check us out on social media. We are Aunt Susie's Kitchen on Facebook, Aunt Susie's Kitchen on Instagram, and of course here on YouTube, we are Aunt Susie's Kitchen. Trying to get videos posted weekly. Do yourself a favor and hit the subscribe button so you never miss one. Make sure you like us and leave a comment below so we know you were here. If you go ahead and make this, we'd love to hear how it came out. And of course, we always welcome your suggestions and comments. So make sure you come back and see us again because there's always something good cooking in Aunt Susie's Kitchen.